It's the SDG Podcast. Before we get started, you can check us out on the web at solutiondesign.com/podcast or find us on all the social medias, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Solution Design Group. Welcome, everybody, to another podcast. Today with us, we've got Steve Bunda.
Hello.
And we have Dean Duffing.
Hi, everyone.
Peter Lawrence.
Hello, hello.
And myself, I'm Kyle Bacher. And today we're going to talk about leading and mostly just getting out of the way. How do those of us that lead know when to get out of the way and hand the whiteboard marker over or whatever we have to do? So Steve and Dean, I know that you have a lot of experience going to projects where you're doing leadership stuff. So my question for you is, when you find really skilled people doing part of the project and it makes sense for them just to kind of take charge and do it, how hard is it to turn off your leadership skills or your position, relinquish your power and let that person run with whatever they're doing?
Go ahead, Dean.
Yeah. So
Dean's leaning in and ready to go.
Right. So, I mean, for me, this is, it's something that is hard to do because I'm also a parent and I've been a baseball coach and I'm used to telling people what to do, right? But I think, over the years at work here, specifically probably the last 10 or 15 years, there's this concept of servant leadership that I've really tried to adopt because, I used to be a developer at one point in time and I'm leading software development teams. So, I was a developer for 15 years and I understand how the concepts about how that stuff works, but I also understand that it's not good when you got someone telling you how to do your job. And so it takes, I guess the key thing that it takes for me is humility, just to realize, you know what? I don't have the skills these guys have now anyway. That stuff is all eroded from my past, right? And I need to just realize that and also realize that my ways may be outdated, but they're also mine. They're not someone else's. And I've always believed that there's way more than one way to solve a problem, right? So and many of them are right. Someone might believe in their own mind that their way is superior, but that remains to be seen, right? That needs to be proven out. And also superior is like you're trying to get to perfection. And I don't think perfection is achievable. I also think that it's probably something that most businesses don't really care to invest in getting to perfection anyway. No. They want to get it done. They want it to be good enough. That's where we hear topics like, minimum viable product or minimum marketable product. Can we just get it good enough to get out the door and be workable for people so they can start using it and we learn and iterate from there to make it better, but sometimes that takes a lot of humility. I gotta realize, I'm not the leader of the pack anymore. I want to be a servant. I want to help the people that have all these skills by taking blockers out of their way of the things that are just stopping them. How do I get in there and remove blockers for them and help them to succeed and let them take the lead?
So you go into Leadership Assist mode.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
100%.
I like that.
Yeah.
Now
I've
seen Steve firsthand take a step back from a leadership position, even though he had a ton more experience, and let me be the dungeon master. I knew he was like, where is he going with this? Yeah.
That's got to be harder than letting somebody lead a project, in my opinion.
Right.
He went right into assist mode, and he just could feel like he could read the room when he needed to kind of reach out and help me along the way. So it was a good mentorship experience. But back to your projects outside of our gaming, Steve, what have you
Yeah.
found?
I think my thoughts on this are similar to Dean's. I would say when I was younger, I felt a desire to
Mm,
prove myself to others and prove myself to myself
yeah.
was probably my biggest thing. And there was a certain amount of ego involved where I felt like this is how I want it done. And in order to get that achieved, I need to do it my way. And I think as I've gotten a little bit older, um, I have learned, much like Dean said, like there's plenty of people that can do this differently and so oftentimes better. Like there are times where I've turned something over to someone else and they solve it, and in the background I'm thinking they're clearly not going to do what I would do or think what I would think. And then they come back with a better solution, and I'm like, oh, I think I needed to check my ego at the door. That was pretty cool what they did. Um, and I think I'm at the stage of my career where I don't think I feel the need to prove anything. Probably more, I don't need to prove it to myself. And it becomes easier to step aside. I didn't say easy, easier to give up the reins on certain things. And I think it becomes an exercise of when when do I really need to step in? Like, is there going to really be a problem here if I don't help? Or is this an experience everyone can benefit from? And most of the time it's I don't need to take the reins. Um, so it turns into a state of gentle coaching. And oftentimes I will even say, hey, I know you're going to take the reins on this. Here's some of the things that I would consider. And I end up adding the phrase file or flush. Like you can file
Ooh,
this
there you
away
go.
as helpful, or you can flush it down the toilet. I don't care. And I think sometimes when I say that, that I think might be easier for others to take it and listen to it like, hey, I'm just offering this, but you don't have to do anything with it. Sometimes that is received more warmly than anything else. What are your thoughts, Kyle?
Well, as the self-appointed mentor of the world, I would have to say it's difficult. Uh, now, if somebody has demonstrated leadership and expertise and gained my respect, then it's easy for me to hand over the reins. Um, I'm decluttering my house. I have a helper and she loves doing this and she does it all the time. And so I started before she got there and created my own system and did all this stuff. And then she showed up and said, we're putting a tarp in your yard and we're going to haul everything outside. And I said, yes, ma'am. That's what we're doing. Yeah. Obviously, you've done this before. And I'm just going to put you in charge and you just tell me what you need me to do. And now it's been going great. But I had a moment, I always have that moment of, I don't want to give up the reins. Who are you? This is my house. It's my stuff. Um, but it didn't take long to get over that. I'm a huge believer in servant leadership. Um, but it's hard to have two leaders. So you kind of, someone has to step aside and play the assist role. Um, and I think I'm okay at that. I've worked so many solo projects though that I'm used to just naturally being the guy. And so I have trouble delegating. I have trouble.
You're the one-man band.
Yeah. Um, so I remember we did an exercise trying to build a structure out of spaghetti noodles, and Peter and I were on the same team. And I got right up there on the whiteboard and I said, let's do it this way. And Peter said, no, we should do it this other way. And I handed him the whiteboard marker, and that's how I christened him as the leader and let him drive. It was like, oh, he's got a strong opinion. I don't really have a big dog in this fight. I just want to be part of it and get it done. And I have a lot of respect for Peter already. So I didn't have to get over anything. It was easy. It's like, oh, yeah, go ahead. And we did not win.
So not what a horrible ending, Kyle.
We
Let me
wouldn't have
ask this
won
question.
either if I had been the leader. We would have done worse.
This was my thought this afternoon walking up the stairs. As a consultant, I'm required to turn over my leadership on every project. And that's made me better at it over 20 plus years of consulting because I've had to do it so often. There are so many times where as a consultant, you want to come in, you want to be a servant leader also and pull back some of that power, but ultimately you're going to walk out that door and you can't have ownership of it. You can't be called for 18 years to for every little problem or every little challenge, right? You don't want that. Steve, what do you think?
That's a really great take, Peter. Is we have to leave our engagement and hopefully leave it in a better state than when we got there, right?
100%.
And this reminds me of a project Dean and I were on where when we left, we still hear from folks at that client today who really felt like under Dean's steady guidance, guiding us through the rocky shoal, that these people were able to blossom and grow and develop into the leaders they are today. And I think, I'm thinking about that. And Dean, I'm sure you know who I'm talking about, where, they just, really looked at Dean as sort of the gold standard.
Ooh, there you go.
For turning that over. And I'm thinking, was that similar for you, Peter, in how you maybe helped others to take over for you and feel comfortable, not just being able to, but feeling
Right.
comfortable, perhaps willing and eager to do so.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, oftentimes you're coming in as the experienced expert. You've come across the technology, the problem, everything. You've done it before. You're coming into a client to help them out, and they're looking at you like, okay, what's our first step? And it's like, okay, well, let's figure this out. Let's everybody take a piece of the puzzle and we'll put it together, right? Rather than you looking to me for this entire I'm not a babysitter. I'm a servant leader, I guess, really, like we've said. It's just the best way to look at it is I'm here to serve you guys. I'm here to make recommendations. I'm also here to not give my opinion when I've offered it and you've ignored it and thrown it away or filed you've flushed it instead of filed it, I guess is the way to look at it. So Dean, how about you?
Yeah. So I love the file it or flush it phrase. By the way, I use it all the time too. I was told by a manager at my first job out of college that she said, well, I'm a little different in how I manage. I believe that a good manager is successful because they lift up other leaders on their teams and get them into management. They find that talent. It kind of becomes about skills development, right? If you see someone that's got leadership potential, that's good for the company, the project, the world, if you find people and you cultivate that to
Right.
build them up to be good leaders, right? And give them their opportunities, right? But that still kind of comes back to my humility point, is like you got to be humble to do that. You got to be okay with cultivating someone and helping them become a good leader and maybe passing you by. Maybe they get that next level promotion that you don't get. And that's kind of hard. I mean, there are things that keep us as leaders that work against us as leaders, right? Like one of those things is that, well, maybe I'm going to get bypassed from this promotion. Well, that's insecurity. You got to be secure in your own job, and okay with the fact maybe management or leadership sees something in the person that comes out of your team that you cultivated more than they see in you. Totally fine. Maybe they need you where they are because you're a leadership factory. That's
Right.
good.
Yeah.
That's helpful to the organization. That's valuable, right? So they don't want to get you out of there. Now, the other thing about being a leader and kind of letting go, the hard part is often leaders are held accountable, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that works against you as a servant leader. Is you're like, okay, I want to give these folks an opportunity to lead. I'm gonna help coach them along. I'm not gonna get in their way. I'm gonna remove blockers for them and stuff like that. Maybe coach them by asking them questions like, "Have you thought about X? Have you thought about Y?" Not getting in their business and telling them you should do this, 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 and this. Just making sure that they're covering bases that might come back to bite them, so that way they can be successful, right? Setting them up to succeed. But at the end of it, if you're the leader of that team or project and they're not doing well, who are they going to come to?
Yeah.
That's danger, Will Robinson, right? I mean, that's a little scary sometimes. So trust kind of needs to be in there too. But you also have to know when to back off and when to jump in, you know. And there's ways to jump in without totally taking it all back over and yanking the reins away from someone. There's ways to coach those folks and be that supporter that you need to be.
Yeah,
Speaking-
I've had a long-term relationship with one of our consultants. We did kind of the same stuff, and I just every time I could help him in any way, lift him up, mention his name for stuff that he was really good for or a good fit for, public speaking, things like that. You invest in someone like that, and then you see them pass you by, and it's pure joy. It's like, they've achieved this position, and it's like, I hope I've had something to do with that. I'm not claiming all the credit, but it's like I was lifting that person up along the way, and doing some coaching and things like that, reviewing things and just giving that kind of help. I relied on Peter just for sanity checks along the way, year after year. And, you're all leaders within SDG in the consulting realm. And so we have I think it's a fantastic panel to be talking about this subject. Have you been told you are the lead on this? Here's your team. Now you go do it with your team. But it's like this very clear message that you're in charge. It's on you. And then you go to do that, and no. These are cats. I'm not in charge of anybody. They're not listening. All the onboarding and conversations, and here's how we're going to run. Here's how we're going to roll. These are what we're going to do. And then Leroy Jenkins. Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah, I'm thinking of a specific example based on the Leroy Jenkins thing where, okay, things are going a little bit off the rails. I have my idea. Another person or two has their own idea, and they are at odds with one another. When do you step away? What is the criteria by which you step away? And what is the criteria by which you take the wheel back? And I'm thinking of a specific example where this was a one-time thing. We had a one-time audience for this presentation, if you will. And I had to exert some control to prevent what I felt was going to be not a disaster, but not a great experience for the attendees. And that's one example where I didn't let go of the wheel. Are there examples you might have or criteria by which you don't let go of the wheel?
It's interesting when you say that, Steve, that like during a presentation or a demonstration or something like that, you've empowered, or a certain member of your team, like, okay, you're the one that worked on this feature, you're going to give the demo, it's going to go like this will be great. And then if they freeze, or it's not going well, they've not chosen good data or something like that, but you have enough experience with knowing that you're helping this person to sort of read through or create your own script for the same kind of thing, just in case, depending on the audience, right? Like if the audience is, CEO level, you want it to go well, and you do everything you can in your power to make that demonstration go well. You want to have this person there to get the spotlight, but sometimes that spotlight, shines an ugly bright light on something that maybe, okay, well, let me just help you out here. What if we do this, and what if I take over for a little bit? It happens quite a bit, but not there again. It's like I'm coaching to try to give the opportunity, and then, okay, let's review after we're done. What could we have done different? What could we have done better? How do we practice this? And then there's a case where the demo just falls apart, right? For whatever reason, maybe US East 1 is down for the day for whatever, like, hey, everybody, thanks for coming to our demo, but we're going to have to put this off a little bit, or, something like that. I don't know. Dean, what about you?
See, I think my examples are more around teams, right? So I have a passion for strong teams, right? But I also think, like, let's say I've relinquished leadership for something to someone on my team, and I'm just servant leadering it, right? I'm helping them out where they need to. That doesn't mean that I relinquish measurement, right? I mean, because ultimately, if I'm the one holding the bag at the end for the progress of a given team, then I'm accountable. But if I'm accountable, other people have to be accountable, right? So I work with that person who I'm trying to make a success and measure. And if
Right.
we're missing measurements, then I'm talking with them and ultimately trying to get them to admit when they want me to step in. At the end of the day, they're the ones asking me to step in with help. Is really what
Hopefully,
it is, and that's okay, because that means I've built a relationship with them where they feel like I'm there to support them to be successful, right?
Right.
And they're not seeing you with your thumb on the wheel
Right.
the whole time.
Yeah, they're seeing me as, okay, they're in the back seat and they're driving, but I'm there if they need me. I'm on my phone, but maybe every once in a while, are we there yet? We're not. Okay. If we're not there yet, how do I help? Is there something I can do to help? And it might get to the point where there should be established milestones or timings and things like that you discuss with that person, objectives, so it's clear on what they're trying to do. And if they're not achieving those, hey, okay, we talked about this, we're not hitting this. What's going on? How can I help you? Do you need more people? Do you need more time? Is it more complex than you thought? How do I help smooth out that message that's going out? Because my goal is to make you look good. That's what I want. I want to make you look good, because if I make you look good, we all look good, right?
Yeah.
And it's that level of cooperation and collaboration, and just understanding that as long as I feel like they're doing the best they can, I'm also very clear on we're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Mistakes are learning opportunities, right? But we also have to do a good job to make sure that those mistakes aren't visible for months and then it blows up into something big. We gotta react to them as quick as we possibly can too. So it's still back to that support role, but checkpoints, milestones, measurement to help them, because you know how it is. Sometimes when you're involved in a task and you're just doing it your way and you're getting it done, you lose track of time, or you miss something and then it comes and bites you. Sometimes you're like, I told him I'd get it done by this point in time, so I'm just gonna do this. Okay, wait a minute. Let's take a breath. We're good. Consequences be darned. I'll deal with the consequences and run blocker for you, but let's try to do this the way that makes sense. And sometimes there might be legit blockers that are in someone's way who's leading something, right? That they need help removing. And that's where that comes into play, where it's like, okay, we got to go tell someone that we said it was going to be done in 6 months. It's going to be 9 months or a year. I can help with that because I got to deliver that message anyway. Right. So
those are not conversations.
It makes me think of like the times where, you extend that leadership kind of handoff and it's not working out the way you wanted to. You can tell it's going off the rails quickly. It's the fail fast thing. And then the tough thing of going in and taking that back and having those conversations. Those are tough. I had a project a long time ago, fixed bid, with another guy, and his work had to happen before my work did. And I thought, he's seasoned, he's older. So I don't really have to be involved in what he's doing. And so after like a week and checking in, he had been taking work direction from somebody that he shouldn't have. They went down several rabbit holes and ended up using half the time that was allotted for my stuff. And then it was the hard, I just worked like a dog, heads down to get my stuff done in time. And it was a lesson for me. You have to watch. You just have to be aware of what's going on. Even if you're not, you've given the reins over completely. If you're the guy, you still have to be aware.
You gotta have that checkpoint. You gotta have something that you can measure that this is where I think you should be at this time. And if we're not there, but we're close, great. If we're not there and we haven't started off the start line yet, we need to have a much bigger conversation. We can't just like fail. I mean, failing fast is good, but failing fast without anybody knowing that you're failing is not the way to go, right? And I mean, that's where Jira and other things come into play, right? It's so you can see somebody who's struggling with a 3-point story that nobody should be struggling with, but they are just absolutely struggling with it for whatever reason. Maybe we need to take that story away from you and give you a different one, and let's get this one done so our sprint finishes in a reasonable order, I guess.
Give them the wheel, but don't leave the car.
Yeah. Right. Well, I am a huge fan of the book Extreme Ownership. And it's if something goes wrong, the first person you look at is yourself.
Hmm.
And did I set that person up for success? Did I do everything I needed to do? Did I make it clear that this is the person that gets to tell you what to do? And this is how long you have. And so we're going to check in, in faster, more often to make sure we're on track before things get out of hand. So I look at the situation and, 10 years ago, my story would have been different. This guy failed all over the board and it was his fault. And now I look at it and go, I failed. I
Right.
failed him. And that's why he failed me, which means I failed me. And now I'm being punished. No, I'm kidding.
Something that I think, so let's say, we're talking about, um, you know, we are leaders, but we're trying to let go and let other people lead, right? I mean, it's not like it's just an isolated thing where you just have taken yourself out, right?
Right.
I always treat it more as something where if I'm involved with this person, this coworker, this friend, or whatever, I'm not taking myself out. I'm there to help them, right? And and helping them also does involve analyzing their traits and behaviors, right? Like a leadership trait that's important is courage and humility, like I've already mentioned, but courage. So, like, for example, if we're talking about things going south, truth is, they often know before you know, right?
Right.
And I try to cultivate that trust where they can tell me, hey, that's again where I'm trying to get them to admit that they need help. So that's when I step in. So it's really an agreement that between both of us, that I'm stepping in to help out, not necessarily taking over, but helping out at least. Sometimes it takes courage for us as humans to admit, yeah, it's not going the way I thought. I thought I could do this, and I'm kind of failing. Admitting failure is hard. It
Hmm.
takes courage, right? But as their leadership mentor, for lack of a better term, it's good for us to be able to show that, you know what, that courage is okay. It's important. And by giving them less consequences, like not just yanking it away and taking it over. Maybe it's being their sounding board, being their coach, doing things behind the scenes, helping them to turn it around, without taking credit and jumping into, oh, this is mine, it's just that ability to kind of help someone else and say, hey, you know what? It's not going well. I'm so glad you told me now. It ain't too late to turn the ship around. Let's see if I can give you some ideas and we'll see if we can fix this together. And I'll give it, this is you, but I'm gonna help in any way I can. I'm your right hand man. I'm your wingman, you know?
Nice. Steve, when do you like how often do you check? Like every hour? Every 15 minutes?
How often do I check to see how the driver is doing?
Yeah.
It's probably dependent upon certainly not every 15 minutes. It's dependent upon what's the duration for the deliverable, what's the gravity of the deliverable. Um,
Do you
but
take
but
experience into account? Like if it's somebody who should know
yeah,
how to do this
yeah,
but maybe
and
not?
reading verbal and nonverbal cues as to how well I think they're actually doing, and then going, okay, if things are really have gone south, when is that last moment when I need to step in where we still have enough runway to fix it? That's probably the general answer.
So staring at the
Uh,
ground and stand up and saying everything's fine and
right. Yeah, everything is fine. That
everything's
came up
fine.
this week. Everything is fine does not mean don't check in. That usually means you better check in with me. Um,
That's a trait I've noticed when when you start a conversation with somebody and you can tell that all they really want to do is get out of it. And so you say, well, how's this? Yep, it's fine. Yep, I've got it. Yep, it's great. Yep. It's kind of a wall they put up and kind of a push. And it's like, okay, I'm going to ask you some more specific questions now.
Yeah, absolutely. When it's generalizations but nothing specific, that's generally an indicator that there's not progress in a positive direction.
Oh, there you go.
It also helps if you get them alone too, because sometimes people don't want to mention it in front of the group. You know what I mean? Hey,
Right.
little note to self. I'm going to talk to so and so after this meeting, just one-on-one.
Yeah, I think that's hugely important. Never dressing anybody down or criticizing anybody in front of a group. You can lose somebody over that.
It's good TV, but not great work environment.
Yeah. I've learned so much from television. Like, let's drive to this remote location in the middle of nowhere to have a 2-second conversation in the dark. But I think early on, one of the ways we relinquish leadership is just giving people autonomy, which when they talk about what's the number one thing people look for in a job, that's, way at the top, if not number one. And it's also like you get to lead your task. We're going to outline what the output needs to be. This is what we want at the end of this, but we're not going to ride you the whole way here. We're going to tell you what we want and then, and then be available to answer questions and do whatever we got to do. But this is your thing to run with. You're the leader of you and your task. Is that how you guys operate generally? People like talk about story points and you fill out the thing and you take on your task and it's up to you to do it.
Yes,
How
and
hands off are you?
Yeah, and I try to say, hey, here's what we're looking for as the outcome. How you do it is entirely up to you.
And what if they
scarier
come
phrases
back
have
and
never
it's-
been spoken?
What if they come back and it's totally not what you asked for or expected?
I think that's happened, and I think I've said this is not what I was expecting. But then I usually have to look at myself and go, okay, what directions did I give or not give?
Yeah.
So, and which, quite frankly, happens a lot. Like we delivered what was asked for, but not what was needed, right? So,
Yeah. I think a lot of times that can go back to there was a insufficient number of questions that were asked and points that were left unchallenged, or unclarified.
I have a question. We've been talking about us as leaders and giving up the wheel. And it has made me think back to when my leader gave me the wheel and when things went badly or well. Have you had that? Can you recall those instances when you were given the wheel?
Not without breaking into a huge sweat and thinking back on how tough some of those were, where you're talking about the not asking for help in a timely enough fashion. That's I think been that was definitely a problem of early Peter Lawrence was I've got this. They've given me this task. I'm going to do it. And I'm going to work whatever, Saturdays, Sundays, whatever it takes to get this thing done. And I'm not going to ask for help. I'm just going to say it's fine. And I wish someone would have said, you want any help with that? Do you want any, like, hey, you're going down the right path, but it looks like you've lost your way a little bit. You want some some helpful advice, and I think that would help a ton. I know I've mentored several like new employees at clients, and the hard part is to get that balance of helping doing and letting them do things, and to know when to be like, all right, you've done perfectly, let's keep on going. And it feels, I mean, it's just like when your kid rides a bike, right? You know, you've given them the gentle shove, and they're staying up and riding down. They haven't fallen over, they haven't crashed into a tree or anything like that. And um, that's an amazing feeling, right? And you can't, I mean, for a while you can run and keep up, but sometimes you just have to let them go and crash. So yeah, I've I've been on that course where I've held on to something a little bit longer than I should have, and experience helps with that too. Like even now, to know if a project is going well, or that doesn't seem like you've got as much done as I thought you would have done by now.
Right.
Let's let's talk. Let's talk. Why don't you walk me through what you've done? That kind of thing. And that those would have been great things to hear and be asked when I was given the reins at the start. Dean, how about you? You get the reins from your manager and off you go?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think that for me, one of the challenges is that I feel like being put in positions as a leader actually kind of gives me empathy for other leaders, to be honest with you. Because I mean, let's be honest, we all kind of get into those situations where it's like, oh, person who's a level or two above me, they don't really know what they're doing. I know what's going on, right?
They're not in the trenches.
Yeah, they're not in the trenches. They can't do the job, right? But having yourself put in a position where you are responsible and accountable for something, and a leader actually helps give you some empathy for people that are in leadership positions, right?
That's true.
And ultimately, empathy ultimately becomes a requirement for good communication on some of that stuff. When you're talking about things, well, hey, I told you to deliver this, and I told you to deliver X, and you delivered Y. A lot of times, I just look back at it as there's got to be a communication breakdown here someplace.
Mm-hmm.
Most 99.9% of people are just trying to do the best they can, right? But
right.
The fact is, even if we share the same language, communication doesn't always work out.
Right.
Right. So
and
communication
it's at the core
is
of every
key.
problem.
Yeah, it's still key. So, I mean, it still gets back to that whole idea of monitoring and checking in, like Peter, like you're saying, hey, why don't you show me what you've done? That's important, especially if you're both on the line for the success of that, right? And you, as a leader that's relinquishing leadership over to someone else, you want them to succeed. Because if they don't succeed, kind of looks bad on you as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you want to work together. And those checkpoints and things like that are helpful, as long as it's about delivery and communication of that stuff too. Is it in a non-threatening way? Are you clearly trying to just help and not take over? Those lines are pretty important. But also, like I said, like just now, I mean, giving someone the reins to be in a leadership role might sometimes help them understand maybe this guy isn't just a suit that's empty, right? Maybe they are doing things that are actually going to bat for me and helping me out and helping me succeed. They just aren't down in the weeds like I am.
Yeah.
So
it's like if you have a problem with the cops, go do a ride along.
Yeah, right.
And your opinion will change.
100%.
Yeah. Now there's, the getting the reins handed over to you um, early on, one of the first times, and realizing not right away, but along the way, how poorly you've been set up to succeed. And when you've really been set up to fail, like, okay, I didn't realize this, but I've had all these factors working against me on this project. And I wasn't the one that sized it up. I didn't do it was just, you're going to go do this project with these people for this long. It's going to be a fixed bit. It's like all these things that now I would know to push back on, or like, even just a delay. Okay, we need to push this out a week and dig into the how and the why and figuring this out. I can't just go in cold. But not knowing that, I went in cold, and it was a struggle from start to finish, and not one of my favorite projects and not one of my best projects. We did it, we delivered, and we got through it.
Lessons were
But
learned.
many lessons were learned. And
Steve,
sometimes that's going to happen.
Yep. Steve, you asked the question. Let me play the reverse Uno card and ask you the question. Do you remember when you were first handed the reins, and were you handed it by an expert leader that helped, a rising tide lifts all boats, or were you handed it as the scapegoat hat that Kyle was wearing there?
As I look back on a couple of things that happened early in my career when I was handed the reins, one, I made a dreadful mistake. Unfortunately, my leader did not crucify me for that. And he absolutely played it right. He's like, yeah, let's not do that again. And that was the end of it. Like he didn't, bring it up constantly. He just moved on and allowed me to move on, or so I thought, because I'm still thinking about it today, right? Looking back at that 25 years ago, going, oh, can't believe I did that.
But learning from it.
But yeah, learning, absolutely. It was a huge learning opportunity. Other times, leaders put me into position, encouraged me, and then when I solved something differently than anyone else had solved it, the leader, like, recognized that and pointed it out and said, because at the time, I was very, I wasn't sure I could do it. I didn't have the confidence about it. And this leader, she just said, look, you took this, you totally changed it, solved it this way. You absolutely have the skills and knowledge to do this. And I was like, oh, yes. And another time I was kind of a one-man band going out doing system engineering work. And I would run into some problem that I would struggle with. And I was like, I don't know the answer to this. I felt like I should, but
Right.
I ended up calling Microsoft, like, hey, I need to call their tech support line to solve this. And I felt really badly that I needed to do that. But later my customer was like, well, I'm glad you called them. You didn't waste any time.
Right.
If you had to call them, I definitely would have had to call them. So I'm good with that. And I was like, oh, thankfully that worked out. And that sort of taught me the lesson of it's okay to ask questions and it's okay to go outside for help. It's okay to look
Yeah.
for help. And I look at something that happened probably about 6 months ago where I was kind of coaching a team, leading them. And one particular individual just absolutely refused to ask questions and ask for help, even though he was floundering. And that, as a leader, I struggled with. It's like, it's okay to ask questions.
Right.
And I had to repeat that countless times.
Pretty please ask questions.
And it was a struggle for this person to learn. And I think my takeaway from that is anytime somebody is given the wheel, it's okay to ask questions. In fact, it's preferred, right? Like
Absolutely.
Yeah.
as a leader, when I turn over the reins, if that person comes to me, I'm like, great, they get it and they're learning, and I'm really, really happy to help
Right.
because they're looking at it, not wanting to fail. They don't want to waste time. And that would be probably my biggest takeaway is when you're given the wheel, it's okay to ask questions.
Yeah. If you don't ask questions, it's a tell. Especially when you're working with experienced people, they know that there's questions. They know that you don't have all the information that you need to do what you need to do. And they're going to sniff that out. And then it's going to be more of a hands-on mentorship where you're offering up the answers that you know they need and telling them, begging them to ask. It's like, well, wait, you just gave a time quote of when you're going to be finished with this, but you don't know about everything involved. How can you do that? It's like, well, I can't, but I just feel like it's going to take 3 days. Then on day 5, yeah. So we're getting down there, gentlemen. 8 minutes left. Parting thoughts, Dean?
Yeah. So I think that letting go of the wheel as a leader is hard, but it also doesn't mean just abdicating any responsibility and support. It really means the servant leader model, in my experience, is superior. It's the one that works best. And I learned that from my very first attempt at being a leader on one, because my leader at the time just kind of checked out. And I found out a lot of things about myself as a leader that were bad things that I needed to deal with. My stress levels, my temper, things like that, that I have learned over the years to kind of deal with those and calm them down and it help affect the way I act as a leader, relinquishing leadership abilities to other people. Is I'm not going to leave them flounder or squirm. I'm going to be there to support without getting in their way because I want them to be successful. So that's how it shaped me anyway.
Steve Bunda.
Ask questions, ask for help. Even as a leader, like I don't know everything.
Right.
Sometimes I even ask the people to whom I might want to turn the wheel over to. Hey, here's what I'm thinking. As I like to say, throw rocks at this. Tell me where I've got problems with this. And it gets them into a mode of thinking, putting themselves into the position of the leader, get them used to that and see who can gravitate towards that role in the future. And check my ego at the door. My ego has been my biggest barrier and obstacle to me learning.
Yeah, we all know that. That's pretty common knowledge.
Thanks for
I'm
supporting
kidding.
that.
I was going to say that's such a lie, but you do
Oh,
well
yeah.
to bring it off as a lie, Steve.
He's one of those, Steve, you're one of the most humble people I know. And that's why I was able to give you a hard time.
Thanks. Well, it comes from years of mistakes. So
Peter?
I think Dean and Steve have said it really well. You're handing over the reins. You're not giving up responsibility. Just like you don't hand over the wheel of the car to a 12-year-old and say, have fun. Try not to ding up the quarter panel or anything. Handing those reins off to someone that's ready makes a better experience for both of you. Because, if you get those reins too early and you're not expected or prepared for it, yeah, it's a disaster for everybody involved, both the leader and the person getting that responsibility. So just just be aware. Don't be afraid to take them back if you need to, but don't be afraid to hand them off because you should.
Yeah. We didn't touch on the like responsibility dumping where a leader who's supposed to be the leader will just choose you as the surrogate to do all their stuff for them. Um, and I've had that happen a few times, and it's made me a better leader. Because it was a gauntlet you go through, and you're doing a lot of leadership tasks and things. It just doesn't feel good. It's not a real happy time. But all those, I tell you, all those bad situations and tough situations just make you better, and you learn a ton from those situations. I had a great project. I had a project that went so well. It was a thing of beauty, and it made every project after that seem like total hell. And it went smooth. Everything was great, but I didn't really learn much. It went great because it was all stuff in my wheelhouse, and they were really willing to just let me go do it. So that was nice. But then the projects where I had a lot of scrutiny and I had a lot of people asking me questions, holding my feet to the fire, things like that, that pressure cooker, you get a little shark skin, you get a little tougher, you learn to ask questions back and pull, the information you need out of people. Um, it's becoming a leader, um, is a challenge. Becoming a good leader is a bigger challenge and
Right.
requires a lot of pain, I think.
No, I'm going to argue against that. It requires a good mentor, somebody that that doesn't just drop the reins in your lap and run away. That helps you get there. I think lets you
Peter's been
learn
my
the lessons.
mentor. I'm just saying.
Lets you learn the lessons, but doesn't make you feel all of the bruises.
Right. That's a good point. Allowing people to fail. If you're really going to give someone autonomy, that means you're allowing people to fail and let that learning experience happen. And you're there to make sure that it's not something that's going to tank the project or hurt the customer. It's all right, we got some bandwidth here and we got this newer guy. We're going to give him this task.
Right.
We know it's a little over his head, but we're going to let him take it and run with it and see what happens. And, they come back, ask questions, they struggle through it, they get it done, and that's good. Some people surprise you and knock it out of the park, and that's fantastic. And then some people don't, and you struggle through that and all the stuff to adjust and make right. And every one of those situations has benefits to it. There's good things happening throughout all those situations. It just some are more of a struggle than others.
Hey,
So
one other thing. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to
no,
interrupt.
no,
Oh, I was going to offer one other thought.
yes, please.
If you are not currently a leader and you're looking to elevate your game, become a leader, one thing that I think is a great thing to do is look at your leader, figure out when they have a lot on their plate. Like you can read them, right? You can read
Yeah.
when just reach out to them. Hey, what can I take off your plate? What can I help you with? I may not be able to do it all. I might be able to do just part of it. What can I do to help you? Because who doesn't like hearing that?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and that just happened to me recently where it wasn't work related, but somebody was like, look, I know you've got a lot. What can I take off your plate? Can I do this for you? And I was like, oh my gosh, yes.
That's the key. Can I do this for you? Because, you can have a situation where someone's so busy that they can't even tell you what they need.
Right.
But if you can identify something, I can do that for you. I can go to that company and do that presentation for you, Peter. I'll
There
take
you
that.
go. That's right.
Yeah. It's been fantastic. I love this conversation, and I'm glad you guys could join us. Thanks for being here. Steve Bunda, Dean Duffing, and Peter Lawrence.
Thanks,
Thank
Kyle
you.
Bacher.
Thank you,
Yeah.
gentlemen.
Thank you.
I think with that,
Been
we'll
great.
say goodbye, everybody.
All right.
Bye,
Goodbye,
buddy.
everybody.
Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, everybody.
Solution Design Group is a digital product consultancy in Minneapolis. Check us out on the web at solutiondesign.com or look for us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram at Solution Design Group.